By this point in the series, one thing should be clear. Interviews do not stay in opportunity mode. They move into evaluation. Once that shift happens, influence works differently. Today is not about when interviews narrow. That has already been established. Today is about how to stay influential after they do. This is the stage where many capable candidates quietly lose control, not because they perform poorly, rather because they continue using the wrong form of influence. When interviews narrow, they stop creating possibility. They start protecting decisions. This shift is rarely announced. The tone can remain friendly. Questions can continue and the conversation can feel smooth. However, the function of the interview has changed, and as a result, influence must also change with it. Staying influential means recognizing that the interview has moved from opportunity creation to risk evaluation. At that stage, short answers outperform long ones. Clarity outperforms enthusiasm. Control outperforms persuasion. This does not feel intuitive. Most professionals are trained to believe that influence comes from demonstrating more. However, at this stage, it's not about demonstrating capability. It's about demonstrating judgment. And judgment is expressed through restraint. Once evaluation begins, decision makers are no longer asking, what else could this person be? They're asking something quieter. What risk does this person introduce? Risk is not always about competence. It is often about judgment. Do they know when to stop? Do they understand scope? Do they recognize the moment they are in? Influence at this stage comes from awareness, not effort. You have likely experienced this. The interview remains friendly. The interviewer nods as you speak. They acknowledge your points. They move on quickly to the next question. Nothing feels tense. Nothing feels wrong. There's no challenge, no resistance, no pressure to clarify or defend. Many candidates interpret this as success. They assume the absence of friction means approval. They assume smoothness means momentum. However, this is often the moment the interview has moved fully into risk containment. At this stage, the interviewer is no longer trying to learn more. They are confirming that nothing new needs to be learned. The nod is not encouragement. It is closure. The quick transition is not engagement. It's boundary setting. This is where many strong candidates misread the room. They feel the conversation flatten. They sense the shift, even if they cannot name it. And they respond by filling the space. They add context. They explain intent. They try to reintroduce depth. That instinct is understandable. However, it usually accelerates narrowing rather than reversing it. Now, consider a mid-senior candidate at this stage of the interview. They are asked a question they have answered many times before. So, they answered clearly and they stay contained. They make their point and they stop. The interviewer nods. There's no follow-up, no challenge, and no invitation to expand. The candidate does not chase the silence. They do not clarify what was not questioned. They do not add detail to appear thorough. They do not reopen the answer. They allow the pause to stand. Then the interviewer moves on. That is not dismissal, nor is it failure. That is control. Control of scope, control of pacing, control of signal. Knowing when not to expand is a form of influence. It signals judgment. It signals awareness. And it signals that the candidate understands the stage that they are in. And in interviews, judgment is often weighted more heavily than information. Earlier in interviews, expansion helps you. Later in interviews, expansion works against you. This is where many high performers get confused. They mistake activity for influence. They mistake effort for leverage. Professionals who understand this are rarely trying to win the interview. They are positioning themselves as low-risk, high-judgment options. That position does not come from persuasion. It comes from restraint. If influence feels like it disappears late in the interview, it usually hasn't. It has just changed form. And once you recognize that shift, you stop trying to add and start protecting position.